Hey, listeners, before we get into today's podcast, I just want to give a shout out to today's sponsor. And today's sponsor is Tiny & Sons Glass. Does your vehicle have cameras or driver's assist? If so, when your windshield is replaced, it will need to be recalibrated. What is recalibration? When your vehicle's windshield is replaced, the safety systems need to then be tested to ensure that they work with your new windshield. Some vehicles require static recalibration, and others require a dynamic recalibration. Not sure who to trust to take care of this recalibration for you? Well, just call Tiny & Sons Glass in Pembroke, Mass. They are experts in auto glass and registered company of the Auto Glass Safety Council. Plus, they make it easy. They will call your insurance company for you. Get your windshield replaced by their highly trained auto glass technicians and get your vehicle recalibrated so you can be back on the road. Tiny & Sons Glass, keeping you and your family safe. Today's second sponsor is Omio. Omio is a travel booking platform that makes planning a journey in Europe and North America effortless. Just enter your travel details and Omio will magically give you all of your train, bus, flight, and ferry options for your journey. It's never been simpler to book your first real vacation for 2021. Best of all, using Omio saves you time and money. That's a win-win in our books. Omio wants to help you leave your house this summer by offering 5% off your next booking. Just head to omio.com, that's omio.com, and use the code LISTENER5 at checkout. Valid until June 30th for all new users and all modes of transportation. It's just the pick-me-up for 2021 that you need. Omio, plan, book, and love the journey. Terms and conditions may apply. Welcome back, Inebri-ites. This is Andy, the Inebri-art podcast, and this is take 2 on today's episode. We had some technical difficulties. I blame a major media company that I can't name because they're litigious. But we had some Wi-Fi problems. So Christee Palace agreed to come back the next day, and I appreciate you coming back. That's awesome.
No problem. It happens, you gotta just roll with the punches, right?
Yeah. I mean, technology is only so great until it's not.
I know. We were just talking about we started to talk about yesterday about how amazing it is to, have a platform like this to still be able to reach out to people and maybe.
And then it went to hell. I think let's not talk about that. Yeah.
Let's just not bring that up anymore.
Yeah. Well, I felt like we spent a lot of time talking about COVID, so let's not recap that because very COVID over.
Yeah.
Even though you guys are still kind of stuck in the middle of it,
I know, but I'm still over it.
Yeah. So let's kind of jump back. What was your start in music like? Was it an early thing? Did you come from a musical family? How did you get into music?
Yeah. So, first off, I'm originally from Windsor. I'm now based in Toronto, Ontario, but I was originally from Windsor and I was born into a musical family, which was really cool for me growing up. Music was just kind of normal. I didn't really realize that it was a special thing until I got a little bit older and I realized, not everyone's families are musical and can all sing and play instruments. So it was just kind of normal. It was always around me. And when I was 3, I have these home videos of me learning how to play piano when I was 3 and singing for the first time. And my dad is a producer and a multi-instrumentalist, and he has a music conservatory back in Windsor. So I grew up there and, he was recording me since I was little. And I just feel like all of this was meant to happen, I certainly grew up with it. And it probably wasn't until university where I realized I want to fully pursue this as a career. And I feel like I was conditioned growing up, into thinking that you couldn't do this as a career and it's not a stable job. And even though it's what I love to do, I just never thought that it was an option for me. But the more opportunities I took and the more I performed, and, I had one opportunity. I actually sang in front of 8,000 people when I was 20.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I have to do this. Like, there's no other feeling like it, So I've kind of been chasing that ever since. So yeah.
I feel it's interesting because you said you were kind of like growing up, you thought that you didn't have the opportunity, or you wouldn't be able to make it into a real job, but like even coming from a music family, that was still kind of the mentality.
Because funnily enough, like, I think my dad is probably the only one that does music full time. Like, he owns the music conservatory, and he has bands, and he's always done it. But everyone else, so it's, everyone on my dad's side of the family, they're all musical. So all my aunts and uncles and cousins, everyone, plays an instrument or sings in a band, or, and funnily enough, they're all teachers, all of them. So that's their actual career, teaching. And then the music thing is just sort of on the side. They're all musical. They're all extremely gifted, but they just never went down that path to pursue anything greater. Or if they did, they ended up just sort of settling in Windsor and becoming teachers, which is great. But I think I just had that mindset. So I said, okay, so this is what we do. We do music on the side, and then we become teachers. So
are they music teachers, or?
Some of them are music teachers. Some of them are just, high school teachers for, various subjects. One of them's a principal, like everyone. It's so strange, but they're all musically gifted and they're all teachers in some capacity. So
the reason why I ask if they're music teachers, and I think it's funny because I'm dating this girl now, and she is a science teacher, but she's a pianist. So like on the weekend, she gets plays at churches and weddings and that sort of thing. But during the week, she's a science teacher. So it's just, I'm like, if they're all science teachers, it's gonna be weird.
Yeah, it seems like it doesn't match, but no, like I feel like that's very common, and I just feel like a lot of times with music, people see it as more of like a leisurely activity or just a hobby, and not something that you can pursue. And that makes sense. I get the mindset, especially now having pursued it. Like, I get it. It's not an easy path, right? But for me, it's just like, I feel like we have one life, so you might as well chase after what makes you happiest. And if that doesn't work out, then obviously you figure your life out and you go from there. But for me, I just thought of it. So like I said, I don't want to just automatically push myself into the teacher category and say, I'm not going to try this. I'm just going to go off and be a teacher and just do it on the side. Like, it's not what I wanted. It's not what I wanted to do. And, after having all those amazing opportunities where I was able to actually be on the stage and feel like what it feels like to do that, I just said, like, there's no way in hell, like, I'm not going to at least try.
Yeah.
Because there's just nothing like it. And I remember, I was in university to become a teacher. I was in, my degree was drama and education. So basically music theater, drama stuff, but you use those techniques in teaching. So I got my degree, but I remember at the beginning of university, I had to talk to my dad, and I said, like, I don't want to do this. Like, this is not, I hate this. So he just said, he's like, okay, well, he's like, the deal is you get your degree, and then, all the while you continue pursuing music, and afterwards, like, I will help you. I'll do whatever I can to help you pursue this, but you have to get your degree first.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. So I did it, and that's, kind of what happened. So.
I wonder if it's like that. Like when you get into like creative fields, it's very non-linear. Like if you're going to become a teacher, you go to school, you become a teacher's assistant, your teacher, like, okay, I'm going to work these months. Then I have these
very clear process.
Yeah. Where with music and arts, it's kind of like, I don't know.
Just figure it out as you go. Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. But I'm lucky that I have a dad who had that experience. Like, my dad was actually signed to a record company in Europe, like, years ago in the 80s. So he gets it. Like, he understands how it works, and he knows that it's hard. But I think for him, like, he understands the mindset of, you gotta experience it. You gotta at least try and do the best you can. Because if something does happen and you're able to make this, your career and your lifestyle, like that's incredible. Why wouldn't you at least try it? If it doesn't work out, then you adapt, you figure it out just like everybody else. Right. But I'm so happy that I did it, because I don't know. I don't know where I would be right now. I'd be miserable somewhere in a classroom, maybe.
That has to have a huge advantage too, to be able to like call your dad and be like, okay, this is what's going on, and how'd you handle it? And
absolutely.
Does he kind of let you make your own mistakes?
Yeah, he does. But I certainly go to him for advice, and he was much more involved in everything that I do musically when I still lived in Windsor. Like, he was very involved in everything. Once I moved on to Toronto, I think he just sort of let me do my thing, and I'm happy he did, because at some point you have to say, okay, time to let go of my hand. let me go do it. And not because of him, but because I very much relied on him and, his experience. And I'm kind of happy that I moved here and I no longer really had him. I could call him up once in a while, but it's not the same as living in the house and going, Dad, like, what do I do? So that really, definitely helped. I really had to fend for myself and build my confidence the second I got here, because you can't survive if you don't.
Yeah.
So
do you remember like the first moment in Toronto where you're like, oh, this is like the kind of thing that I would go to him, but now I have to
it's funnily enough, I feel like it was just like the everyday lifestyle things that were the most challenging.
Oh, really?
Things musically, I mean, I learned very quickly, once you get here, okay, you don't know anybody. So what are you going to do? Are you going to stay in your apartment? Or you you kind of learn really quick. You get out, you go and try to perform places, you meet people, you connect. And that's the only way to get yourself out there. Right. So I learned that really quick, because you can't, there's no other way to do it. You can't sit at home and expect something to happen. But it was more so just living on my own and being like, oh my God, this is crazy in a new city. Not even I just moved out of my house, and it's I was in a brand new city. I didn't know anybody, living by myself. And I was like, oh my God, that was more challenging, I think. And just missing the whole family thing, because I am very close with my family too. So.
Yeah, it's funny. Yesterday, after the whole Wi-Fi debacle, I know you're not gonna believe this, it continued to get worse.
Of course, just the final fuck you, eh?
Yeah, it was just really, you're just gonna kick me out of email now? No matter what I tried to do, it was terrible. I was just so frustrated, and then I kind of got that. I'm like, well, what was business like before email? And I just kind of dropped what I was doing, and I went off to this brewery that I had been on my list to I got to go talk to them at some point. Turned into a great meeting. They want us for a bunch of events, and
that's awesome.
It was just one of those oh yeah, this is the part of the business that I really enjoy, is
it worked out.
The networking. And yeah, so
that's awesome.
It tried to turn that crappy thing into
somewhat of a silver lining.
Yeah, right.
I love it.
So now you're in Toronto, starting off on your own. Did you already kind of have your own sound, or because sound is such a weird thing, because it can kind of grow and change, but you don't want to grow and change too much, because then your fans are like, that's not what I'm looking for.
You're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I mean, so first off, I grew up listening to classic rock music and pop. So I grew up as a pop rock chick. I always wrote pop songs, but I loved the powerful rock vocals and the range and all of that stuff. So my music was always like that. My idol at the time was Avril Lavigne when I was growing up. She was my favorite. And everything about her was exactly what I wanted and exactly where I thought I fit. And I really did. It's not like I tried to be like her. I just identified with her, and it was the perfect fit. So yeah, pop rock music was my jam. And I actually had, I was kind of going back and forth from Windsor to Toronto for a little while. And this was I think towards the end of university. So once I decided like this is what I want to do, I started like going to Toronto, and I met a producer here, and we were, I was going back and forth doing the whole thing. And I was very like, I grew up in a family where, you're celebrated for being your authentic self. And that rock edge that I had was very celebrated and encouraged. So when I got here, I knew what I wanted. Like it's never, it was never like I had to sit there and go, where do I fit? What genre am I? Like I was never really confused about that. I always knew that. But the funny thing is when I first got here, like I was kind of told that, rock is dead, and like you got to be either like totally mainstream pop, like, with beats and whatever. And so, not that I didn't like that, but I definitely knew that, I like electric guitars and I like real instruments, and I love that sound. And so I definitely had that influence like pushed at me, I think, but I always fought for the rock stuff, like put guitars in there. Like I want to hear it. I want to hear the guitars. And so, yeah, I mean, if you listen to all my music since I've moved to Toronto, like I've had multiple releases since then, and they all sound very, very similar. I think each one, you always grow as an artist, but the sound I think is pretty well the same.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like, you hear that rock is dead, but it's never dead. It always comes back.
And right now in full swing, like there's, especially like indie pop artists, like a lot of them they're bringing the rock stuff back. Like you hear guitars and everything now, like heavy production with all kinds of instruments. And it's like, it's amazing. I'm so happy. And a lot of my new music now has all of that in it. And I feel like now more than ever, I'm like, this is exactly where I need to be. And this is exactly what I want. And it's awesome. So
yeah, I feel like it's on a cycle too. Like I remember when I was a kid, I was like big into like hair metal and stuff. And then, it was all about like who could play the fastest and the most elaborate. And then like the Black Crowes came along and they're like, no, we're just rock. And they were huge. And then it kind of went through the same cycle. And then like the Black Keys come along and they're like, yeah, there's just two of us and we just play rock, and they're huge. And so there's always a place for it,
Awesome. Yeah. I've always loved it. I've always loved that feeling of rock music. And I know that, so as much as I've been pursuing my original stuff, I always sang in like cover bands and stuff on the side. So I've always done that too. And I always sing rock covers because they just hit differently, when you're performing them live. Anyone in the audience recognizes all of those rock songs, like the Led Zeppelins and the Journey. And like, it's just, everyone knows them. They're classic. And I love them. They're like some of my favorite songs to sing ever. You just see everybody light up. So
do you work some into your sets when you're kind of, playing?
Yeah, I have actually. So I'll usually do, like some kind of rock song and then, a pop cover of something that's like pretty current, but it's very much where I fit. I love the rock stuff, the rock pop. It's just, that's exactly where I'm at. So
what are your favorite covers to work into your sets?
Oh my God. Rock and Roll, Led Zeppelin is my favorite. That is my favorite song to sing ever. I just love it because I go crazy. I go nuts. It's so fun. Sweet Child of Mine is just a classic. Nice. I love that one. Don't Stop Believin', I sing all the time. Shook Me All Night Long, AC/DC. Like there's just
a very classic rock.
The very, very classic rocks. Like that's, they're just so fun. And they just bring me back to my childhood when I used to listen to that stuff. But I've done a lot of different covers. Like even my dad and I, he came up with like his own rendition of Best Friend by Queen. So we did like our own version of it, but we always come back to that stuff. Even Aerosmith, like it's endless.
Aerosmith is literally, I think two towns over. They live 2 towns over. The majority of the band are right up the street. It's so weird because everyone's like, every once in a while, I'd be like, I was at Stop and Shop and I saw Steven Tyler.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it's very weird.
That's so very, very strange. But Yeah, it's just I can't like I can just never get rid of that. So I couldn't stand when people would say to me like rock is dead. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. And it's not like you see it now too. And it's, it's so funny because even the younger generations, like they all recognize all of those classic rock tunes. It's insane. And that doesn't happen with like, well, there's exceptions. There's some pop songs that are like that, but I would say the majority of pop songs, they come and go and
Yeah.
forget about them. But rock stuff, it's like, just you don't forget.
Yeah.
So there's a
It's funny
reason.
you say that. Like my kids, for the past few years, my daughter just turned 17. My son's turning 19 in 2 days.
Wow.
And, they're, I'm the weekend dad, so I'll pick them up and,
Yeah.
they'll be rocking a Led Zeppelin shirt or a Nirvana shirt. And one of my
All,
son's favorite concerts he's ever been to is Motley Crue. And, and I'm like,
oh
are
my
you
God.
40 or what? Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I see that all the time. Like the band t-shirts, the oldies and stuff. It's so cool. But there's just nothing like it. I don't know, especially on a stage with like a full band and you're like rocking out. It's just a different feeling.
Do you ever kind of get an urge to go in a different direction with your music? Like, so I got really into this band. There's a hardcore band out of LA called The Bronx, and they decided they wanted to do mariachi music. So they started a mariachi project called
Oh,
Mariachi El
wow.
Bronx. Like, have you ever gotten like that kind of weird, like, I want to do reggae, or, just to really depart from what you're doing to kind of like either push yourself or just kind of break things up?
Like as an artist, no.
Yeah.
No, like I've always loved the pop rock, and that's my writing style too. Like I could never write any different than that. It wouldn't be natural anyways. Like I would have to really force that.
Yeah.
But like I said, I've sang in cover bands my whole life. I actually sang in a wedding band for about 8 years of my life just to get, performance experience.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
we kind of toured around, the Windsor area, well, actually all of Ontario pretty much, and Michigan states. So we did a lot of stuff, and I sang all kinds of music in that band because we needed a very diverse set list.
Yeah.
Um, I love singing ballads, believe it or not, of all genres. I love it. But yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I'm straying away from the original question.
Oh, that's fine.
Just like, I don't know. As an artist, I've never really, no, like I've never been like, I really want to experiment and try something else. It's always been the pop rock stuff. I love singing just straight up rock music. Like I love that stuff. I love singing ballads of all genres. But no, my writing style is just, I don't know that I could change it. I'd have to force it for sure.
So what is your kind of like writing method like? Do you come up with the lyrics first? Do you come up with a riff? Like where do you kind of start? And
Question.
what'd you say?
Because I said I love this question. It's like it's always different,
Yeah.
but I come back to the same, 5 or 6 different ways, but it's always different. I have like sometimes I'll just be, playing the piano and I'll come up with some kind of chord progression that I really like, and then I'll start singing a melody on top of it and then put lyrics to it. Sometimes it'll happen with a title, or just something that I'm experiencing, that I'm going through, that I need to get out. Like usually the lyrics will come first, and then I try to match the melodies and the chord progressions with, the feeling of the song. And it happens that way. Like it's always, it's different. It's the same, probably 5 or 6 different ways that I do it. I have like on the notes app on iPhone, I have like just an endless amount of stuff. Like every day I'm writing stuff down that either pops into my head or, just something that, inspired something else. And I write it down, or like a song title idea. It's funny, when the city was actually open, a lot of times in transit, that's when I did most of my writing, because I'd have to, go to and from wherever. And I would just sit on the subway and like, pump out lyrics and then put music to it after. Yeah, I don't know.
That's funny because like I hear that a lot. People be like, "Oh, I'm on the train or the bus or whatever." But the thing that I've never heard before is that I come up with the song title first.
It
That's
happens that
interesting.
way. It
Yeah.
happens that way. Oh yeah, it just, and again, it's just different. It's not like I do it that way every time. It just
Right.
depends on what it is, right? I could just be literally daydreaming and just thinking, and like then I have like this title that just pops into my head and I write it down. Like it depends on what it is. Or sometimes I'm reading, if I'm, reading a book or anything, and there's a word that stands out to me that I go, oh my God, that's really cool. Like I like that word, or that reminds me of this time. Like I'll write it down right
Mhm.
away. And if I ever happen to like not have material, or I'm not sure what I want to write about, like I'll always go back to that and refer to it and see, okay, what was my inspiration this day? And you go and you write.
No,
So
that's a really interesting way to do it.
yeah,
Yeah. It actually makes me think. I have a friend of mine who has a list on his phone. He's not musical in any way, shape, or form of band names, and it's like
that's so
as like you're
funny.
having a conversation, someone will say something, and he'll be like, "That's a band name," and he'll just like put it down and be like, "That's an album name,"
Just in case. You
and
never
like,
know.
yeah, I think my favorite
That's
ones were
funny.
High Tech Redneck, and
Like, what inspired that?
I have probably some drunken conversation somewhere.
That's usually how it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Slush Puppy Syndicate was my other favorite.
Oh my God. That's really funny. Hey, they
Yeah,
have they got a ring to it, that's for sure.
yeah, and it even kind of like at one point there was a conversation of like, oh, let's make up a book that's nothing but fake album covers for these bands that don't exist.
Why not?
Yeah, never happened, but it was.
Well, why not? I
Yeah.
think we should do that. We need to pursue this.
Yeah. Do you think like it's so different now? Like I hate thinking back when I was a kid because it makes me feel super old, but like album art cover was huge. Like, is that still something that like you give a lot of thought to? Like when
It's really important to me, as much as the music is important, like the visual aspect of everything I love. Like I love the process of coming up with those ideas. Yeah, and I definitely put a lot of weight into it, that's for sure. I don't just like throw something together. And and there's nothing wrong with that. People that just want to keep things a little more simplistic, like that's totally cool. For me, I just visually I want things to match like what the song means to me. And I think I'm just creative that way. Like I think of that,
yeah,
along with the songwriting. Once I'm finished a song, I automatically am thinking about what I want it to look like, whether it's the artwork or just the music video or like any of that stuff. The little teaser clips, all of that stuff. It's just automatically in my head. I just love it. I love that stuff.
yeah. It to me it was such a part of music because that's how you would kind of, if you didn't already know you're an AC/DC fan, like the album cover is what sold you on the band. Like you would,
But I also think maybe it was slightly different back then because people were actually buying records and
right? Yeah,
having like the physical thing in your hand, and you can like open it up and you look inside and you see the pictures, and like I think it's just a different world now. Like everything is so digital to the point that no one gives a shit. Like they want to listen to the song and that's it. So yeah, I get that for sure. And I can understand why maybe people don't put as much weight into it anymore, because it really doesn't matter, right? People, their attention spans are so like, it's insane. Like, you're scrolling and you'll listen to 30 seconds of a song and then you're done. So I get it. I get why people maybe just don't care about it. For me, I just love it. I love coming up with that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I get it.
yeah. And I mean, music videos still seem to have like a really strong life on
Yeah.
YouTube.
Anything online.
Yeah,
Online flourishes.
it's funny. It's the thing that I miss, and I feel like there's still a market for, and I can't quite figure it out. Is that kind of old MTV, like a string of like not connected videos? I mean, that's how you really discovered new music, and now
I
it's
know. I do miss that. I do miss
yeah,
that for sure. Now it's like, you have to revert to the Spotify and the playlists and listening to that. I mean, that's really the only way that you can discover anybody, especially because everything is just so oversaturated now. There's so many artists putting out music. It's like, how do you even discover people anymore? It's
yeah.
crazy, but I
And
do a lot of
the the production value is so much better for the low end. Like, back in the 80s, you could be like, okay, those guys have no money whatsoever. Now it's really hard to tell, because you can shoot a good music video with your iPhone.
Yeah, 100%. Not only that, but you can record a full album in a bedroom now. It's
yeah.
Everything it's just a totally different ball game now, which it is kind of cool. Like, it's great because I feel like it allows everybody to sort of have the same opportunity now. Like, you can, make music and then put it out, and the quality is still just as good as recording in a massive studio, although maybe not the same experience. But
it's funny, that's exactly where I was thinking, because a friend of mine just during this past year, he wasn't able to play out, so he opened a recording studio at a band rehearsal space.
Wow.
And it's just such a cool place to go and hang out, and you run into bands and have a couple drinks, and the vibe there is just amazing. And it's exactly what you would think. There's guitars on the wall and Christmas lights strung up, and but it's
a different vibe. Like, but I guess it's like, if you've never really experienced that, especially just like individual artists, if you're not part of like an actual band, and I'm not talking about like, having players that will play with you live, but if you're not in an actual band where you have like a relationship with the people you're with, and like, I just feel like it's a different thing. And maybe you don't even realize what you're missing out on. Right. But I'm lucky to have experienced both. Like, I've been in bands and I've done the individual thing, but I treat the guys that play with me as if they're my brothers, and we jam all the time. And like, we do that kind of thing. We'll go to rehearsal spaces and we get together, and it's different. I love that whole vibe for sure.
What was the deciding factor that made you decide to do like a solo thing opposed to a band? Like, was there any real specific reason? I mean, you can use High Tech Redneck if you want. I mean, you can use that.
I'll be contacting you in the future.
All right.
Just in case. I don't know. I feel like I just always wrote my own songs, right? So for me, I loved the band vibe, but I loved just being able to write and like not have to. It sounds so like, because I know collaborating is a huge part of being an artist. So I'm not talking about that, but when you have to equally include everybody in the writing process. And it's just, to me, I don't know that was something I wanted to do. I didn't really give it much thought, honestly. Like, it just kind of happened this way. Like, I always wrote my own songs, and I went by my own name, and I just did it that way. And honestly, the guys so most of my bandmates are from Windsor, actually, and they moved to Toronto with me. And we always had that like sort of like brother sister relationship, and I loved that part of it. And I'm like, would you really want to put each other in a situation where you want to kill each other? I don't know. But I know that's not always the case. But I don't know. I never really gave it much thought. It just kind of happened that way.
Yeah, band dynamics can always be complicated.
It's different, right? Yeah. And there's so many complicated factors, like you need to make sure you're all on the same page, and you got to make sure you're with people that are easy to work with. There's just a lot of stuff, but I always wrote my own stuff. So I think it just happened that way. I didn't really consider having that whole band thing. I loved it for doing cover gigs. Like, like I said, I love the vibe of it. It's awesome. I love just rocking out with a whole band behind you. There's really nothing like it, but in terms of like my music as an artist, I never felt the need to explore that.
Yeah. I always feel like in bands, there has to be like one person to kind of step up and kind of be like,
there's always a leader anyways, right?
Well, there has to be like band HR, the one guy that everyone goes to complain to, and like the drummer is mad because the bassist said, that rim shot was like 2 seconds too early, and he gets all bent out of shape. Like, and you always need that.
Really tough. Yeah. It's a very tough thing, especially like I said, coming back to the whole, being on the same page as everybody else. Even for me, like, I had issues just with my guys, like trying to come to Toronto, but like also be in Windsor. And like, it was just a crazy thing. And some of them, you know, deciding, well, I want to start a family now. And like, this is what I want to do. And
Yeah.
so I ran into my own problems with that as my own artist, you know, not even in a band, but just having players that wanted to do other things. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I love my guys so much. So there's nothing wrong with that. But that was hard. Just, you know, knowing that, okay, like, so if there's conflicts, I got to find a replacement and blah, blah. Like,
yeah.
It's a lot to deal with. So I can't imagine being in a band. Like I would imagine if that is the case, like you have to find people that you just mesh well with and you're all on the same page. Like your goal is the same. And I think that's really the only way to pull it off. Right.
That's 100%. It's like you have to have the same goal and the same level of commitment.
Yeah.
That's always really difficult to find that in
100%.
two people, let alone about 5.
It's tough. Like even like I said, just we'd have rehearsals sometimes just for my own individual show as Christee Palace, and the band guys would just like, you know, they'd get at each other because they would call each other out if something wasn't right, or which is great because they're all perfectionists and they wanted it to be a great show. But that's hard. It's a hard environment to be in when there's a lot of pressure and like, you know, that you need to deliver. Like when I opened up for Walk Off the Earth.
I love them.
They're incredible.
Yeah. That's great.
Incredible. So we were rehearsing for that, and this was a huge deal for me. So I opened up for them for 2 show dates, one in my hometown,
nice,
and then one in Kitchener, Ontario. And there's a lot of pressure, and I wanted to do a good job because I knew like I'm going to be coming back to my hometown, opening up for Walk Off the Earth. Like we got to kill this, you know? And so that's tough though. Like that means rehearsals, like at least a couple times a week. And, you know, for hours at a time, it's tough, you know? And like, I know my drummer, he's so funny because he's a perfectionist and everything. I feel like a lot of drummers are like that, but they gotta be like, everything's gotta be spot on for him. Otherwise, like he's not happy, which I love. I love that about him. But he would just call everybody out for stuff. It was so funny. And not to be, you know, a shit guy, but like he wanted to do a good job. And I loved him for that. But it's tough to be in that. And when you're the one that's on the receiving end of that, you have to look at yourself and go, man, I need to step it up and I got to try harder and I got to practice more. Like it's tough. It's a tough situation to be in. But
I think that's one of the hard things about any creative field. It's like if you are, I don't know, if you're a doctor and you don't do a good job and the person dies, it's pretty obvious. And but like if you're a creative person and you're doing something creative and you're doing it your way, for someone to kind of come in and be like, oh, you could have done better, you could have done this, it's almost more like they're saying that you personally.
And that I think that's the one thing that you have to know, that it's not personal. Like it's just, we need to kill this and you got to be perfect. Otherwise it's like, the competition is too great. Like you can't afford to not be well rehearsed. That's just the bottom line. Right. So that's tough. But it is tough. Like even for me, he would call me out for stuff, or like, you're not coming in at the right part, like whatever it is. And you can't help it. Like it's just a little part of you go, oh, like I just wanted to be perfect and I thought I was great. Or like you're sharp or flat or whatever it is. And but you got to develop thick skin and just know it's not personal. Just everyone wants to do a good job and you should want that too. You know, like you're getting into this industry, like you gotta be on your game every time. So
because no matter how critical they are, your friends are always gonna be nicer than you know, the people online or whatever.
It could be way worse. That's for sure. Oh my God. Yeah. I would prefer that. I'd prefer them to call me out for shit. And that way I can fix it. And you move on from there. But yeah, it's exactly like you said. Do you really want to like be filmed sounding like crap and then have people cut you up online? That's worse. That is way worse. Totally unforgiving. So not the same.
Yeah. Anytime anyone asks me for advice or my opinion, and I always say, I should say, do you want my real opinion or do you just want me to say it's good?
The sugar coated.
Yeah, and they kind of, and it's really just for them to kind of step back and go, okay, he's going to be 100% genuinely honest, because they all say, I want your honest opinion. I'm like, okay, that's what you're going to get.
You want me to be honest, or do you want me to be fake honest?
Yeah, exactly. It's not always going to be good, but
That's so funny. Well, at least you give them the disclaimer beforehand.
Exactly. And I'm waiting for the person to be like, just tell me it's good. I'm like, all right.
Exactly. Oh my God, that's funny.
So where can our listeners go to check out your music and hopefully sometime in the future tour dates?
Yeah. Oh my God. I hope so. So, well, we won't talk more about that because Ontario is still locked down. But let's hope for the future. I'll be in touch. No, I have all my social media, my music, everything is linked to my website, ChristeePalace.com, or follow me on any social platform because I'm on it. Because I have to be. So, I'm on everything.
Are you on the TikTok?
Of course.
This is my new thing. I've been asking everyone because I signed Inebri-art up for it because I didn't want to lose the name, but I don't know what to do with it. So like, what are you talking about?
It's endless. TikTok is strange. But in a good way, because you can post something up and it could go viral out of nowhere, and it's not even planned. It's such a strange platform, but also really awesome at the same time. You're in front of new eyes every single time you post, and that's quite different than any other social platform that I've been on. It's just a lot easier to gain followers and new listeners, and I think it's a brilliant platform. And I think for artists, like, whether you like it or not, this is a social media world, man, and you got to adapt to it and just be a part of it. But for me, it's everything. It's sharing my music, doing cover songs, and my own renditions. And I also I'm into like health and fitness and all that stuff, so I include that. Like, it's just very much about everything that I do. And once you're on the platform and you start watching the videos, you kind of pick up on the trends and the things that people are doing, and you just try to incorporate that, but within your own capacity and what you want people to know you as, so.
Yeah, that's some good advice. I'm gonna have to
put
time to it.
I think it just depends. It depends what you're on there for, but you just as long as you know what your goal is, in the back of your mind, you come up with different things. And I feel like once you're on it and you're like paying attention to how people are posting on there, it becomes really easy, and it's not overly difficult. And the best part about it is that you don't really have to put a lot of thought into anything. You could post something up and it'll go viral overnight. Like, there's just no real formula. So it's interesting for sure.
Just makes me feel super old.
A little part of me sometimes wishes that social media wasn't, as heavily weighted, but that's just the way that the world is. So
it's just so convenient. I think that's really
it is convenient, and if used properly, it can be a great tool. But it's tough. Like, social media is a strange game. It's incredible for getting yourself out there, but at the same time, it is also super oversaturated with other people that are posting. So it's hard. Like, as much as it's an easier world, it's also way more difficult at the same time, because there's so many people that are posting, and it's like, it's a crazy time to be an independent artist. That's for sure.
Well, I appreciate you coming on to the show twice. And
time's a charm.
Yeah, anytime you have something to promote, please.
Did you press record today, or do I have to come back tomorrow?
Oh no, I've been recording. Oh my God, this gave me a heart attack. It's like you heard the voice, right? I heard the voice.
Can you imagine? Oh my God. I'd be like,
I've literally done it.
It's fun, but
yeah,
I don't know if it's worth it 3 times.
This guy's an idiot. Like, yes, but
no, I would come back. Come back. No, but we're good. It's recording.
No, but I've literally done that. I've sent over episodes to my editor, and he goes, it's you sitting in front of the camera and then the person comes on, and then you shut off the recording, and then it comes back on at the end. And I'm like, oh my God, I did it backwards.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So, I mean,
That would give me a heart attack. That would give me an absolute heart attack.
we're pushing 350 episodes. I think we've screwed up every way imaginable.
I'm sure. Yeah. Still more ways to be discovered. So
please, I don't want to.
That's so funny.
Yeah. All right, Chrissy, thank you so much again. And thanks for our listeners. And we'll see you guys again next week.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to today's podcast. You can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or on Instagram at Inebri-art6. You can email us at Inebri-art@yahoo.com. And make sure you listen to the other podcasts on the Inebri-art Podcast Network, including Bar Talk, Old Colony Cast, Retro Redoctopus, America's Hometown Horror Podcast, and our newest one, Theme Park Legends, a podcast about working at theme parks. What else? And we'll catch you again next time.